Hi, and welcome to another edition of Press Pass, ODFN's weekly podcast for Oregon Duck football news. Well, of course, I'm Warren Williamson. This is Nick Smith, our contributor. Today was a spring game here in Autzen Stadium. I don't know if we learned a lot today from both of these teams, but it was entertaining. They had a record crowd here in Autzen Stadium. What do you think we learned today, Nick?
That Marcus Mariota is fast. For those of you that didn't get to watch the game, Marcus Mariota went untouched for 82 yards in the first half for a touchdown. It's significant because we didn't realize he was that fast. We knew he was a good athlete, but we didn't realize he was going to run away from defensive backs like he did today.
He actually, on that 82-yard run, he ran away from Ifo, who is a sophomore cornerback for the Ducks, just ran away like he was standing still. I spoke to Deion Jordan at the end of the game in the press room, and he said he's never seen a quarterback that fast. That he said he has skills. He certainly can move.
Yes, he looked like he was a little slow on the trigger to take off and run, more so than Brian Bennett, who somewhat underperformed on the day, but it's the spring game. You're playing against guys you know every day. I spoke with Brian Jackson after the game, and I said how much of that is knowing exactly what the offense is going to do, knowing all their reads, and how much of it is just good athletes. And he said it's probably about 70-30 knowing what everybody's going to do and good athletes.
But let's be clear, if we're going to talk about the quarterback, certainly sophomore Brian Bennett did struggle today. He threw 2 interceptions, almost a third interception. One of those interceptions was run back for a touchdown. Bennett seemed to struggle both, I think, on the move, didn't run real well, and he just didn't seem like he was into the game mentally, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, that'd be my impression as well. I think mentally he wasn't quite there. I don't know. I'm not inside Brian Bennett's head. I'm not down on the sideline. It's pure speculation, but he seemed like he was a little out of it today. He wasn't necessarily as focused as we've seen him in the past.
And speaking with Chip Kelly in the press room at the end of the game, he said don't take too much from that just because you're splitting the teams up. There's talent on both sides. It's not going to be the true essence of what this Duck team is going to be in the fall. But, of course, Bennett did struggle a little bit, and, of course, he did not speak to the media in the press room because I assume that he was probably a bit disappointed in his performance.
Yeah, I would imagine he was as well. I'd imagine he's going to be until fall camp starts, and hopefully he uses this as a motivation and gets in the gym and works hard and gets out here and runs routes and throws passes with his receivers. And we'll see. We're going to find out September 1st, like we said 2 weeks ago. We'll know who the starting quarterback is going to be September 1st.
Some of the positives that you can take from this spring game is some of the younger players got into play, got in to feel this atmosphere here in Autzen Stadium. Of course, the young guys, Evan Bayless, the big tight end, the true freshman, he played. Eric Armstead, defensive tackle, true freshman who came in early to play in spring drills, he played. What do you take from the younger guys? I think there is a positive there.
Absolutely. I spoke with Eric Armstead as well, and he said it was nice to get out in front of the crowd and do it on a day like today where there wasn't necessarily a lot of pressure to do something phenomenal. He got out there, got used to playing with some of his teammates, and we forget that this is the 16th or 15th practice for them. They've been doing this all along. All spring. Come the third practice or so, the pads were on and they were popping and they were hitting. So this isn't new to them. It was just new to have all the people around them and have the game day festivities as well.
I spoke to Evan Bayless, the tight end, the true freshman tight end in the media room. He also said he was extremely nervous when he came into this game because he'd never been in this atmosphere before. 40,000 people here in Autzen Stadium. But all in all, he said he felt very comfortable. The coaches have raved about Bayless, at how well he's taken in the playbook and how well he's taken in the knowledge and has really blended in well. So I think that's a positive for the Ducks going forward, is that they've got a big true freshman tight end that's going to do well for them.
Yeah, I would imagine so. He played pretty well today. I was impressed with the things I saw from him. I was impressed with a lot of things I saw from a lot of the younger players. So it'll be interesting to see what happens come September 1st in Arkansas State when they step in here and we really see what this team's going to be about.
Quickly, let's talk about the running backs. Kenyon Barner, only 1 carry for 1 yard today. We knew he probably wouldn't play a lot. Ayeli Ford really stepped in and played well. He had 80 yards on the ground, I think 16 carries. Again, He is a walk-on, is not on scholarship, but I think he set himself up today very well to get some playing time in the fall.
I would agree as well. He ran hard. He hit his holes well. The only thing that I would, if I was to critique him at all, would be that he was a little bit slow on some of his decision-making on cuts. But he played well. They fed him the ball like crazy. I think this was his audition for that backup spot. You know what you're getting from Kenyon. I talked to Kenyon afterwards, and I jokingly asked him, you know, how'd you feel today? Do you think you did well? You know, and he just kind of smiled. He goes, yeah, I thought I did real well. So, you know, Kenyon, you know what you're getting from Kenyon. You know what you're getting from DeAnthony Thomas, and you have a good idea of what you're going to get running production-wise from your quarterbacks. So it was really that audition for Ford today to see if he can handle that load, and I wouldn't be very surprised if he's not number 2 on the depth chart.
Sophomore DeAnthony Thomas, he played considerably this afternoon. Didn't have any really big plays. He caught a few passes, had I think a 22-yard reception, played well. He did line up and did take some snaps in the backfield. I think they wanted to limit him in the backfield as well. We were talking during the course of the game. We don't think that DeAnthony is going to line up much in the backfield come the fall.
No, I really don't think so. I think we're going to see a lot of DeAnthony the same way we saw him last year. And what we're going to do is we're going to rotate Kenyon Barner up and Ieli Ford up, and it's going to be, instead of LaMichael James and Kenyon Barner, it's going to be Barner and Ieli Ford. And then DeAnthony's going to come in. He's going to run that double back set with them. He's going to run out of the slot. He's going to catch screen passes and slants and stuff like that. He's not going to go downfield with you. He can, but he's not going to. I don't think that's what they really want to use him for. And let's not forget, DeAnthony Thomas was a true freshman last year. He's
still finding his way.
He didn't know the whole playbook.
Right.
Granted, he knew quite a bit because he's a smart football mind. But you put him with a full year and then a full off season to learn the playbook, and that can be very, very scary for other teams.
Let's quickly touch on the defense. Secondary had a tough day today. It looked like they were a step behind all afternoon. There were some interceptions, of course, but it didn't look like they were all in sync. I think that's to be expected. They still have a young secondary. Defensive line, Coach Aliotti said he was very optimistic about the defensive line, about the way his young players played. He liked the way that Tony Washington played at the down end, opposite of Deion Jordan. So I think all in all, they were pleased with what they saw in the defense, and they will have to go back and look at film to see if they're going to have to make any adjustments. But Coach did say he hopes that they'll rotate 10 defensive linemen in come the fall.
That's a ton of defensive linemen. I think your starting defensive line is gonna be Deion Jordan, Tony Washington, Eric Armstead, and Taylor Hart, who Taylor Hart played phenomenal today. Yeah. He was in the backfield on almost every running play, and he was always chasing the quarterbacks down. So look for him and Eric Armstead to be two big run-stopping forces in the middle, and they're both big guys. We're looking at the development of a run-stopping defensive line, and that's exciting here.
Of course, in a game like this today in the spring game, you can't touch the quarterback, you can't tackle the quarterback, it's touch football, so you really can't get a great idea of how fierce this defensive line is. But all in all, they did play well. Okay, let's before we get out of here, let's talk about moving forward. What are some of the questions do you think the Ducks have to answer going into fall?
Well, the big one is going to be who's going to be your starting quarterback. What was really impressive today was Marcus Mariota. That touchdown run, the fact that all you had to do was touch them to make the quarterback be down makes Mariota's 82-yard touchdown run all that more impressive. Nobody touched him for 82 yards, and he ran away from everyone. On the flip side, though, Brian Bennett was very quick to pull the trigger on running in the right position, in the right spots. I don't think he was making poor decisions to run the ball at those times, but he was going to run through all these little arm tackles, and he got whistled down after gaining a yard or losing a yard, which he probably would have gained 15 to 20. So there's a little bit of plus and minus there. I can very much see why Chip alluded to maybe using a 2-quarterback system. I don't think that's going to be the case still, but I can see why Coach kind of looked at that and said what he did about that. I think you also need to answer who your second running back is, and I think you need to nail down your top 4 defensive backs, cornerbacks which is something Coach Aliotti talked about today after the game as well.
I think the Ducks are set up there. They've got some good depth at the DB position, at the corner position. I think for me, what the Ducks really have to solidify, and even Coach Kelly mentioned this in his post-game remarks, is wide receiver. They still don't have a set wide receiver. Now, going into this game, there's no depth chart. The Ducks don't want to have a depth chart. But they have a lot of good wide receivers who stood out today. Keenan Lowe stood out to me. Blake Stanton stood out to me today. They had some good. Eric Dungy made some good catches today. Rashawn Vaughn as well.
Played very well. Yeah, and you know, the person that we didn't see a lot from today, who I expected to see a lot from, was Devon Blackman. Mm-hmm. I think he was targeted a few times. I'm sure, and I'd have to go check the stat book here on this, but I think he had 1 or 2 catches. But I expected him to go down and be that big threat across the middle and on the outside that we all expect him to be. He, once again, still very, very young, and so we'll see how he matures through fall camp. But that's a great question to see where they're going to go when they need to throw the football.
So that's it from here in Autzen Stadium. A lot of questions the Ducks must answer come the fall, but that's several months away. Of course, they've got a month of fall camp to go through to answer a lot of these questions. But all in all, I think the Ducks performed well in front of a record crowd today, 40,000 here in Autzen Stadium. Of course, we'll be back in the fall with more of our weekly podcast, Press Pass. So for now, for Nick Smith, I'm Warren Williamson. Thanks for joining us on Oregon Duck Football News.